All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Search Engine Journal Show. Thanks for joining us. I'm Danny Goodwin, Executive Editor of Search Engine Journal. Today, I'll be joined by Loren Baker. Loren is the founder of Search Engine Journal. You may have heard of him. He's also the VP at Foundation Digital, a boutique digital marketing and PR agency. Loren's been in the industry since 1999. In a past life, he used to teach English in Japan for 3 years, and he used to have a gig on weekends marrying people, and I need to talk about that because that sounds really funny. He's spoken pretty much every conference you can think of. If you've ever gone, you've probably seen him. And he's won a ton of awards, US Search Awards, PR Daily Awards, Drum Search Awards. Loren Baker, welcome. And welcome to the 200th edition of the Search Engine Journal Show. And we're doing this totally live, so welcome.
Happy to be here. It's about time I showed up.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So you've hosted a few of these podcasts over the years. So I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Huh?
Now I'm on the receiving end.
Yes, exactly. So you're in the hot seat today. So I don't know. Any thoughts on being the guest on the 200th episode for us here?
Well, I'm excited that we've reached 200.
Yep.
That's a milestone.
It's a heck of a milestone, yeah.
And or bicentennial. Also, I'm excited to be doing this live because I think, for those of you that have been following us at SEJ, we've been making it an effort to do this transition into video. And through our eSummit, right? So we decided to get started, and we're like, let's throw an 11-hour long live video event to get started. Yep. So we did that. So this is a little bit less stressful than everything else, but no, it's cool. It's great to be touching base, and can't wait to watch this and listen to it perhaps afterwards.
Yes, absolutely. So, I was joking with Loren before. SEMrush has been doing all these 5 hours of eat and 8 hours of content. So I was like, oh, we need 10 hours of Loren today. So strap in, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. But I don't know. So you did bring up the eSummit, which was just, it feels like it was a really long time ago, but it wasn't. So do you want to just sort of talk about eSummit and your overall thoughts on how you think that went?
Yeah. So obviously we started planning this once COVID lockdown hit. We had done physical summits in the past, but we're not a conference company. And that's like, people sometimes ask me, like, what's the difference between SEJ and some of our competitors? Well, most of our traditional competitors have always been conference companies, which then launch a digital marketing arm, which is their blog, right? Mm-hmm. So we've been a blog first, and then we've tried conferences, but we're more of a conference company. So the ability a blogging company and a tech company, right? Mm-hmm. So then the ability to do this and kind of be within our comfort zone was really cool, because we're online all day. We know all the people that spoke with us and half the people that attended. It seemed like a lot more natural, I think, to be able to hold that virtual summit. Mm-hmm. As opposed to going outside of the comfort zone and like dealing with hotels, dealing with this, flying, everything else. The ability for us to all be in, be on our computers, be doing this work, be connecting with the industry without having to go through all of those, hoops previously was really nice. So I think it's a natural extension of kind of what we've been building up to. Mm-hmm. And even though this started as a, kind of a response to, COVID and everything else, I think we're going to continue nonetheless, just trying to figure out how to right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the big question I know a lot of people are asking is, when's the next one? So do you want to comment on that, or just?
We don't know yet, but thinking possibly the fall.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Conference season.
Yep. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if physical in-person conferences return this year. There's a lot of doubt about that. So,
Well, I mean, everything's gone that way, right? Like I watched the new King of Staten Island the other day, right? Mm-hmm. The day it premiered, instead of watching it in the movie theater, I watched it on Amazon Prime, and it was really cool. It was in the comfort of my own home. Mm. I could hit pause when I wanted to. Didn't have to hire a babysitter, et cetera, et cetera. it was a pretty good movie. So point being is that I think there's going to be a lot of change as a result of this, and a lot of adoption of things that were trending previously, right? So the whole film direct to on demand was something that was being tested before this. Now it's becoming accepted, right? To the point where I don't know if it's been finalized, but I remember about a week and a half ago, there was news about Amazon looking into buying the AMC theater chain, right? That's a big deal.
Yeah.
So if you think about that from a summit perspective, right, a virtual conference perspective, like SEM Russia, as you were talking about, did their 24 hours of marketing last year. That was phenomenal to watch for them to pull it off. They pulled it off without a hitch. People have been doing it for years. We've been doing our webinars for years now, right?
Yep.
But in a way, this has kind of escalated that whole thing, and it's given us a chance to test it out, and it really works for us. So, I think it's going to stick afterwards.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And speaking of COVID, I have been asking everyone this. I'd love to hear your sort of your experience of the last couple months. How has COVID impacted your agency? Are you losing clients? Everything good? Do you see any sort of bounce back at this point, or just sort of what have you sort of been going through the last couple months?
Okay, so on the agency side, we did lose clients when COVID hit, and a few. Actually, a couple. One complete loss, and then a couple of budgets were cut. Right. Most of those companies were brick and mortar. We work with a lot of trade schools, right? So a lot of those trade schools, in order to get your certification, you have to go there in person and do the work. So even though the leads were coming in, those leads can't be closed, and March really reminded me of 2008. 2008 when we had our depression, right? 2006, 2007, 2008. That decline, and it really reminded me of that because, in a lot of ways, it tests your fortitude when it comes to offering services and working with clients, right? So, I would say in 2008, a lot of the companies that had to cut budget or make changes, some of them we stuck with. Some of them we said, look, this is not working for you. It's not really good right now, but we're going to be here when this is over. Kind of took that same approach here. Like, okay, you have to cut budget. It's fine. We're not going to drop you. We're not going to be, jerks and say, oh, we're going to hold you to your contract. Like, this is a big deal. So I think from an agency perspective, it's always a positive to be able to have empathy for your clients and work through that. Now, at the same time, when you do run a digital agency, you have mouths to feed, right? So it's not as easy as signing contracts, doing the work, and getting checks coming in. You have a lot of more responsibilities than you do when you're a consultant. When you're a consultant, you have yourself and your own family. When you have we have 30 plus on staff, right? So it's a lot of dinners, it's a lot of kids, it's a lot of just trying to figure out how people live and how it affects them. So luckily, going through this, we were able to bring on some new work as well and some new clients as well. Some of them were surprises, and some of them were companies that actually did quite well through this pandemic and are still doing so. So that was really good to see. I think we're blessed from that perspective.
Right. And I don't know, how do you sort of see the next few months playing out? Do you see, just generally, like in the SEO world as a result of this, do you see any big changes or trends that are sort of taking shape now?
So when this all hit, I saw a lot of peaks in specific industries, obviously like masks and medical, food. I think I had never working with e-com clients. I had never really discussed with them much on their supply chain side, right? So a couple of things happened as a result of COVID. One, Amazon's supply chain totally got screwed, right? So you wanted to order something via Prime, and it says it's going to come in 2 months. Like that's. So I think for the first time ever, or the first time in a long time, smaller e-coms got the advantage over Amazon with communicating the supply chain, right? So that got me really involved in that side. And that's something I think we're going to be able to continue after COVID. Another thing is that, traffic numbers can be really misleading during this time. On the e-com side, we saw conversion rates increase because there was less traffic, but there was more revenue because the people that were actually searching for items wanted to buy them here and there. So it was a question of, it wasn't necessarily a question of your price. It was more so a question of, do you have it? And can you get it to me, right? So by communicating that and by focusing on revenue numbers outside of just ranking and traffic alone, we've been able to expand upon some really trusted relationships on the client side. And I think that's going to continue on that front. I think from SEO, it's always, how is this helping me? Well, you're ranking, you have so many key terms that are ranking on page 1. It doesn't really mean anything unless that traffic is getting to the site and converting. So I think, for the main part, during this time, we got deeper into that decision-making process and deeper into that funnel. And that's been a focus of mine for the past couple of years, at least on the client side. It's not necessarily about just ranking. It's about conversions. I see I'm responsible for the traffic that is generated from an SEO perspective turning into customers. If not, what's the value at the end of the day, right? Now, sure that there's a lot of people involved with that, but how to turn them into customers? Just by getting ebook downloads and getting them into the funnel. Is it by making a transaction here and now, right? And getting more involved with that decision-making process and that sales-oriented process has been something that's come out of this, and I think it's going to continue. And I think for others in the industry that have also done so, I think it's a huge opportunity moving forward.
Yep. Yeah, and I know just from looking at search engine journals traffic, it's been kind of interesting seeing when something big is happening in the world, like when all the riots were going on a couple weeks ago, it's like traffic dipped. It's like, did we have ranking issues? No, it's just user behavior is changing so much as an influx right now. It's sort of changing everything. So it's been really interesting watching that. So yeah. All right, cool. And everybody who's live here on Facebook and YouTube, if you have questions for Loren, please just throw them in the comments. We're going to try and answer as many of those as we can. It's not too often you get to just hang out with the founder of Search Engine Journal, so please make use of it. If you get questions, SEO, anything, digital marketing, ask away. So we did have a couple early questions come in a private group, so I want to ask you those just to help kick us off. Brian Harnish, who's one of our contributors at Search Engine Journal, wanted to know what is your favorite thing about SEO?
Oh man, you know what? My favorite thing about SEO is the ability to have balance between creativity and data, right? It's very seldom you're able to do that. It's very seldom you're able to play things from a numbers algorithmic side and then of your brain, right? And then also be able to use the creative side of your brain too, right? Because we know that there's a path to get there, but the question is, how do we do it, and how do we do it differently than our competitors are doing so, right? And a lot of that is content driven. So for me, it's been incredibly fulfilling, I guess, making this my life's work, to be able to not just focus on one side of the brain, but to get that balance between the both, right? And a lot of it's from a problem solving perspective. And a lot of it is also, you see the fruits of your labor at the end of the day. It's another thing I like about SEO, right? And it's always changing. I could not imagine working in an industry where it's the same thing day after day after day after day, right? One of the hardest things about SEO, but one of the most fulfilling things at the end of the day, is that even when you think you're on top and you got it, you can be knocked back down again. You got to figure it out, right? So Google does a very good job of keeping us on our toes there. Also, if you pay enough attention, you can work your best to get ahead of the curve, right? So, and a lot of it's also building that journey, right? How do we get there? Well, what are our competitors not doing? What can we do? How do we do better from a content perspective? How do we do better from a video perspective? So you're involved creatively with what the client's doing too, and it's a question of just putting together the pieces afterwards, right? So I think that's probably what I enjoy about SEO the most. Is it's not purely an analytical play. It's a component of all of the pillars of marketing, and I think SEO is also The only if you compare SEO to like PPC and then maybe traditional advertising and PR and email newsletters, there's only really two marketing disciplines where you get compound benefit from the more work that you do over time. And that's really SEO and emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
PPC, yeah, you learn you can make your campaign better, you can make your conversions better, but you're not necessarily, if I'm spending 20,000 to make 50,000, and it gets shut off, it's done, right?
Right.
The thing about SEO is that investment over time, and as you're stacking and compounding win over win over win, strategy over strategy over strategy, it's going to continue to pay off. So that's one thing I really enjoy about SEO as well, is the challenges, the balance, and the ability to see long-term gain, right? And then grow from that.
Yep, absolutely. And Brian actually had a follow-up question. So what is your best advice for new SEOs getting started in the industry?
It's a really good question. So at start, there was really it's forums, right? That's really all there was. Aaron Wall came out with his SEO book after a couple of years, and you really learned from your peers, you learned from forums, you learn from people experimenting, right? Over the years, a lot of things have changed. Like Google actually has Google Search Console, Google Webmaster Tools now. So they're telling you, Google's basically telling people what's wrong with the site day after day after day. They're doing it more and more and more, right? Never used to do it before, right? So in addition, what I would say is in addition to your courses, your certifications, your checklists, or your mastering of Search Console, your mastering of whatever tool set that you like to work with, I would also say make sure that you set the time to experiment, right? It doesn't always mean experimenting on the site that you work on or work with, right? Because I experiment on client sites all the time, but I have their sign off on it. I'm like, we're going to do this thing that no one's ever done before, and I don't know what's going to happen, but there's a chance. Here are my projections. Let's do it, and that takes trust. So I experiment on client sites, but what I don't do is experiment without telling anybody, and that's the beauty of having like your own projects, right? So if you have your own projects on the side, whether it's a blog, something that you're passionate about, yada yada yada, that's a great chance to experiment, to do things that no one's done before, to try out your ideas. And then, because I think that as the industry has grown over time, we tend to take case studies and then apply what something else has done to what we do, which is fine. But also, take the leap to do something that no one else has done before and see how it works, right? Just make sure it falls within Google guidelines and everything else.
Right. Absolutely. Cool. And we're getting lots of questions coming in, so this is awesome. So we're going to start asking them right away. Let's see. Let's start with Barbara. Hi, Barbara. Thanks for listening. Barbara Friedberg. Want to know, when you're improving content using SEO, what is the range of time that it might take to take effect?
Yeah, it depends. So, and a lot of it depends on the site that you're working off of, the content that you're working with, et cetera, right? So there's numerous examples. With SEJ, we have a 17-year-old blog. A lot of the content that we optimize and rewrite has been out there for a long time. It already has links coming to it. We get links when we publish things, et cetera, right? So typically, we see an instant result when we're optimizing content on a blog or on a publishing site. If you're optimizing content on a new site or a site that's in a little bit more when you're not already an industry leader, I typically see, if it's a brand new site or if it's a site that's been around for a while and you're doing something like launching a new blog campaign or optimizing landing pages or whatever, typically talking about 2 to 4 weeks until you start to see some kind of movement on that side. And then it's a question of where that movement goes and monitoring it and things like that. If you're talking about content changes like, adding video and that getting picked up in Google Video Search, or image optimization, that can take a lot longer than optimizing things on the content level. If you're optimizing things on the content level and you're going through and you're fixing errors, tweaking headers, taking outdated content and making sure it's up to date, typically see a quicker response from Google. But again, it just depends on the age and authority of the site that you have, and then also the competitive field that you work within.
Mm-hmm.
But give it a couple weeks to a month, and you should typically see some sort of movement on that side.
Yep. All right. More good questions coming in. All right. This sounds like a fun one. Let's see. So I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing, Kai Simpson asked, question, what is the worst digital marketing strategy you have ever witnessed? And I guess for this, we'll say anonymized, don't call them out. But yeah, is there anything that's just sort of like, somebody came to you as a client, was like, and you just looked at what they did and you're like, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, one of the worst things that I witnessed was a leading blog that decided to update all of its content, or at least update their timestamps, and they did that without changing their content. So they went through their existing database of blog posts and marked everything from like 2009 to 2018, right? Without making any changes to the content whatsoever. And suddenly they lost all the rankings that they had previously, right? Because first of all, it was obviously manipulative. And second, you did not have the reinforcing action to back up that proof, right? You did not have like the proof to back up the action, more or less, right? So it wasn't lining up. Over the years, I have had many of people contact me and say something like, "Oh, we don't know why, but our site is dropping dramatically. We're losing all kinds of visibility. We're losing traffic. We're even losing branded traffic." One of the first things I do there is I check their source code to see the status of their no index, no follow. I've seen this quite a bit, maybe way too many times over the years. But a lot of the times when development will take a staging environment site and push it live, they'll leave that no index, no follow on there. And the question always is, and I was talking to my friend Bill Hunt about this once, like how do you charge for that kind of consulting, right? Because it takes a couple seconds to look and find that, but the value is all SEO based revenue that was lost because of that mistake. So sometimes I'll be like, hey, I know what the magic bullet is, but if I tell you this, we have to really work together or do something else in the future, because I could see you guys like totally leaving as soon as I tell you what was wrong. And then sometimes it's just like, look, guys, like fix this and then come back later and then we'll see what happens.
Yep. Cool. All right. Someone was asking, let's see, this was Joydeb. What is the best SEO strategy for e-commerce websites? Is there sort of anything in that area that you've noticed is working well?
Yeah. I've really noticed that adding natural language Q&A to product and collection pages works extremely well, right? Because of a couple of reasons. One, there's a lot of traditional e-com search intent related queries that have made their way into being informational over the past couple of years. So by having the content on your landing page, which defines the product, that's great, like size, shape, etc., color, etc., a little bit about the product details that are unique to your page and not what the other vendors are also having on theirs. That's perfect. But also adding a natural language component from a Q&A structure, right? Hey, can I wash this? And what happens if I wear this outside? Or what happens if yada yada yada. So then putting together that Q&A and coding that up in schema using, it's called FAQ schema, but question and answer schema. And if you're lucky and you're ranking on page 1 anyway within Google results, that will show up in the results themselves. So that FAQ markup will show up as expandable question and answer boxes, right? Which can really help you if your competition is not doing that, especially in the world of e-com. And in addition to getting that more real estate on the Google ranking side, it helps you from a conversion perspective, because people aren't leaving your product page anymore to find out more information about the product, right? Because if you don't have that information, if you don't have that Q&A component, they will go to your FAQ. They'll search Google again looking for that information. So applying that natural language to your product is very important. And then also making sure that everything is coded on the product level in an e-com environment for schema schema markup.
Mm-hmm.
Because Google's utilizing that with image search right now. They're rolling out, or in the process of rolling out, organic shopping listings that are manageable through Merchant Center. So that's another thing. If you haven't set up Google Merchant Center for your maybe you're not doing paid for some reason, go to Google Merchant Center right now and sign up and upload your feed, because Google Merchant Center is powering the organic Google shopping experience, which Google added during COVID, basically to compete with Amazon, but to better compete with Amazon. But by doing that, what's happened is all of that organic reporting from Google Shopping is going to be done in Merchant Center anyway, not Search Console. So you're going to want to get that data from Merchant Center and then include it in your organic reporting along with what you have from Search Console as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Awesome. Okay, cool. Thanks for that question. We got tons more coming, so we're going to keep going with these because these are good. We have one. Let's see, Siddharth. Apologies again if I'm saying your name wrong. I wanted to ask about UX. UX being a ranking signal. So what should we be looking at in terms of user experience when we're, optimizing sites?
I mean, the most obvious thing really is speed and deliverability of content, especially in a mobile environment at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Google has done a very good job with Crux, their Chrome UX management system, measurement system. So, and now they're reporting that within Lighthouse and within Google Core Web Vitals, right?
Mm.
So you go into Search Console right now, you'll see your Web Vitals reported by Google. It's basically final. Not only are they finally giving us confirmation that this is an error from a speed perspective and putting it directly in the Search Console with all your other errors,
Mm-hmm.
but they've finally given us a timeline, right? Google has said by the end of the year, we have to make sure that that this is fixed, or else it can harm your ranking experience. So that's a pretty big deal from a UX standpoint. So Google has given final confirmation that that speed is a definitive ranking factor. Mm-hmm. And there's other things like mobile friendliness and stuff like that. That's also important.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Cool.
Danny, one second. I got to take a quick break. Someone's at the door.
Oh, okay. Hang on.
That's what happens when you're live.
That's what happens. All right. So while Loren does that, yeah, guys, lots of great questions coming through so far. We're trying to ask more. So yeah, keep them coming in the comments. Loren will be back in just a moment and we'll resume the fun of being live. In the meantime, I'll do a plug for our t-shirt store where you can get this lovely t-shirt. Oops, there we go. T-shirts at searchenginejournal.com.
Look at that.
Yeah, we should drop that link in the chat. We'll do that in a second. But yeah, we have lots of cool SEO t-shirts. So since Loren had to leave, we had to do a plug. All right. So yeah.
Speaking of Core Web Vitals,
yeah,
there's so many development teams that I've worked with over the past 3-4 years trying to speed things up, and we'll tell them look, this is a big deal. Google wants your site to be faster. You're mobile first now. Fast. Takes you 13 seconds to load. We got to get that down to 3, right? Oh no, we'll take care of that when it happens, yada yada yada. But now with Core Web Vitals being reported in Search Console, you actually have a measurable timeline to be able to give to developers on the client side, and then push from the C-suite, the VP level on in, right, and get that support. And it's become really helpful. It's become almost as helpful as the ADA Act has been for getting alt attributes fixed. Core Web Vitals will be for you for getting speed issues fixed or getting them prioritized internally. And the good thing, a great way to also sell those speed fixes is that speed does not only benefit SEO and Google ranking, it also benefits conversions, right? So the faster the site, the more conversion from your better performance you get from PPC, from your email campaigns, from all forms of marketing as well. Cloudflare has a chart on, like if you for Cloudflare speed and conversions, they have a really simple to follow chart on how what they've tracked with conversion rate based upon site speed, and how when this, it's very common sense, but it's a good visualization of it. As your site gets faster, you convert more, especially in e-commerce.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right, great stuff. We'll go with another comment from the chat, or a question from the chat here. So let's see, if you could rank all the factors affecting SERP position, what are the 3 most important factors in your opinion, Loren? And I know Google has come out and said this, but this a couple years ago, that links, content, and at the time they said rank brain, but I don't know if that would be the case anymore. But yeah, what would sort of be your top 3? Would they be the same?
I mean, links, performance, and content, right? So by performance, speed, ability to load a site within a mobile environment. Content, content's a really interesting thing because content performance is relative to the space that you compete in, right? So if you're competing within a space where the bulk of your competitors aren't investing in content, and you do invest in content, then that gives you a huge advantage over them. And it gives you the ability to create the best content in the space, right? The best content available in the space. First of all, when people are clicking on 1, 2, 3, and there's nothing really there, they may click on you at number 4, and they see you can bring them in. You can tell a story. You can have some graphics, some charts, the ability to sign up for your newsletter, whatever it is. You can hook them, right, with the content once they're on the site. And then also having the best content gives you an excuse to have links, right? No one's going to naturally link to the worst content ever. They're going to link naturally to the best content available. So why not produce the best content that you can in your space? And that gives you an excuse. First of all, if anyone from Google is looking at your inbound links, they see that it goes to a content-rich page that's worth linking to. But secondly, it gives you the excuse to do that old quote-unquote skyscraper technique. Where you can go out and do the best content in your field and then do competitive linking, asking people to link to you in addition to your competitors as well, right?
Yep. It's interesting too with the links. Like, it's like once you get into, especially the number 1 spot, you just start getting links like crazy too. Yeah. Like, I even see it with contributors. It's like if they go to look for a stat, I'm sure you've seen this too. It's like if you search any stat, whatever's ranking number 1, people will cite that.
Oh God,
yeah,
it drives me crazy.
Yeah,
it drives me crazy with writers because they always do that. I'm like, no. You gotta source the source. You don't source something that's referring to the source, right? Just because it ranks in the top of Google doesn't mean it's the source. Yeah. Right. So that drives me crazy with data, right? Or like, what's the site? Statistica.
Statistica. Yeah.
People are like, they're getting links all day.
Yep.
Because they're ranking for a lot of data queries and stuff like that too. Yep. Right. So you do, like, we get links all day at SEO based upon what we're ranking for, and it's really interesting sometimes to go through the inbound link reports to see what trends, right? So that's something you can use, and Google's been telling us forever that they're going to get more, vigilant when it comes to penalizing for links and looking for links and stuff like that, right? So it's not that you can't build links, but what you can do is you can learn from the ways that you're naturally getting links, right? Or people are linking to your competitors naturally. So go through those reports. Like, what's the most linked to page on my site? Why are people linking to it? What can I learn from this? How can I apply this to my campaign? How come people are linking to this article on this news site? What if I were in this article? This article is not offering me a direct link, but they're offering me a no follow. Well, I'll take the no follow because that article ranks really high in Google. When someone's searching for something and they read that article and click to my site, it's still search intent traffic, it's still traffic that converts.
Yep.
So there's a lot of opportunities on that side.
Absolutely. Cool. All right. Well, I think we've exhausted the people. Oh, that was Lawrence. So Lawrence, thank you for that question. Yeah. So we will move along. It's funny when you're talking about linking and link building. I remember seeing, I believe it was Jason Bernard maybe who asked you this question, and he said, "What's the best link building tool?" And you said it's the publish button. I always love that.
Yeah, the publish button.
Yeah.
That's the goal at the end of the day. That's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow of content marketing. And there's reasons for that. Like, I think that's one thing that the blogosphere has lost now is the power of the RSS feed. It used to be, back in the day, it used to be that if you had a solid RSS feed, there'd be people that would be finding your content through RSS readers, sites like TechMeme, which were powering through picking up articles via RSS or just from spidering, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's kind of been lost. So like when we used to write an article, when I used to write an article when I was just, SEJ was just by myself, I'd make sure that I'd go through my traffic numbers, and the bulk of that would be from RSS readers, right? Feedburner and I don't know, Blogscape and all that stuff, right? So I think that was the mentality at the time, and that's grown. And now, when we hit the publish button, we know that one, it's going to go out there, right? It's going to be picked up in Google News. It's going to go out on our newsletters. Anyone that subscribes via RSS is going to get it. And then other publishers see it too. How do you replicate that on the client level to a degree? Well, it's building relationships. It's contributing to blog. It's working together with other sites and things like that. So when it's making sure that the content that you provide on the blog actually goes out to the email newsletter. Small little things, right? It can be things that, especially when you're consulting, it can be a battle, hey, we send out our SEJ today on a daily basis. It usually works with the XML, the RSS feed, the XML. Every once in a while, it looks funny, but it works and it brings traffic back to the site at the end of the day, right? And it brings links because people read it and they link to it themselves. How can you do that on the client side? How can you get the content that you're providing from an SEO perspective in front of the rest of the audience that doesn't need to find that content? They're already brand advocates. So when that client shares it on social media or in their email newsletter, they go directly to the site. Those people link too.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So, I want to chat to you a little bit about the history of search engine journals. Since this is a big milestone episode, I figured might as well get the whole story out there. So talk to me a little bit about why you started Search Engine Journal and what was it like back when you started versus today? What's like some of the big changes that you've seen?
Okay. Started Search Engine Journal in June of 2003. I was living in Brazil at the time, and the reason I started it, I'll back up a little bit. I've spoken about this before at conferences and stuff, but in '99/2000, I was finishing up college, and SEO was not a thing at the time, but I was finishing up college, and it wasn't a big thing. I mean, SEO existed, but it just wasn't a big deal. And I decided to get into internet marketing instead of basic PR, right? Which is what I was studying in school, PR and advertising.
Okay.
So I got into internet marketing and SEO. And then I was doing fairly well from an SEO perspective, working at a very small company. And then in 2001, I decided to retire from the world of SEO. So I quit my job in SEO in 2001.
Okay.
And I went to go teach English in Japan, which is something I always wanted to do. So I enjoyed doing that for a couple of years. And then in 2003, I moved from Japan to Brazil. Now, while I was living in Brazil, I noticed that I couldn't make the same wage or salary that I could when I was living in Japan teaching English. So I had to get back into doing something to pay off what existed of my student loans. So I called up my old boss and went to see if she needed any help from an SEO contracting perspective. And she did. And I really had unplugged from the SEO industry for a couple of years. And a lot of change during that time. Like Google was not a major player before 2000, 2001. It was all like Alta Vista and Excite and Lycos and stuff like that, right? Directories were the thing. Directories were the bomb back then.
Oh, yeah.
Spamming directories. So I had a lot of catch up to do, right? So what I did was I got really involved with a lot of forums, Create a Site forums, SitePoint forums, and some others. And I found that I was trying to kind of establish myself in the industry. So I was writing responses to questions and then asking about things and stuff like that, networking within forums, which is very valuable. Everyone should do it. And I found that I was contributing more content to them and then I would be my own site. So I'm like, you know what? I should launch my own site. And instead of writing a 2-3 page response, maybe I'll turn that into an article. So Google bought Blogger around the same time. That was big news. So I'm like, oh, wow, I can actually do this on a blog now and not have to upload via FTP and everything else. That's great. So I went to go buy searchengineblog.com. That was taken already by a guy named Peter DeVanzo out of New Zealand, I believe. And the next logical thing was Search Engine Journal, because at the time, blogs were either called weblog, right, which blog is short for, or web journals. So I went with Search Engine Journal. Instant credibility, right? Wall Street Journal, Medical Journal, et cetera, et cetera.
There you go.
Yeah, launched it on a blogger. It was searchenginejournal.blogspot.com, the domain redirected. It was a good platform at the time. And then about 6 months later, some guy reached out to me. He said he was beta testing this new blog technology called B2, which was a precursor for WordPress. And I could actually put it on my own domain, searchenginejournal.com. Like, yeah, let's do it. So, it just launched from scratch. It was kind of my own personal project for a long time. I would get up in the morning for about 4 or 5 years and write as much as I could before I started my day. I ended up launching a consultancy from it because I had so many people asking me to do what I had done for SEJ for their company blogs, right? Or their company sites. And it kind of grew a lot larger than I had ever anticipated. I mean, my first ad sale was $35 that I got like after a year. Someone paid me $35 a month to put their ad in my sidebar.
Nice.
Which I was really excited about at the time. Then it just grew and grew and grew and grew and grew from there.
Awesome. And so I don't know, what's, as you sort of look back, like, is there sort of anything, if you could go back and do it over again with sort of how you built SEJ, like, is there anything you would sort of go back in time and do sooner or just not do generally?
I think I would have, I started it as a bootstrapped thing. Like it was totally like with whatever money I had at the time. And that was like, I mean, it's still like that, right? A couple of years after I started Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Land started. Right? So Search Engine Land had capital behind it. They had the ability to go out and start paying and recruiting a lot of people that were part of SES or Search Engine Strategies. I was doing this by myself. So I was going out and recruiting people to compete with Search Engine Land because they were able to, have a lot of names, publishing a lot of stuff, and it was going hot pretty quickly. They had an established company behind them, everything else. I was going out and finding people that would write for free. So I think in retrospect, the ability to get some capital and put it behind a content plan, to maybe bring in an editor at the time and not do everything on my own, or maybe bring in some paid writers or recruit guests at the time would have been really, really useful. Other than that, I would say no, because it's been a lot of trial and error. And for me, that's the way I learn, right? Like there's a lot of blogs that started at that time. And I'm still friends with a lot of people that started blogs then. And those blogs have grown. So like people that are just trying to figure it out, like Pete Cashmore at Mashable, or Brian Clark, a copy blogger, and stuff like that. So the ability to kind of just get started, Darren Rouse, like the ability to just get started during the infancy stage. And I was learning from those guys because they were also going through trial and error themselves. Like there was no roadmap at the time. But in retrospect, yeah, I would probably get a little bit of capital together, plan it out. Probably be a little bit more careful on who I let write on the site. I had some fires to put out early on. But yeah.
A few sketchy links we're still finding, maybe.
Some of the sketchiness from the link perspective came about when I focused more on the agency side and kind of let things go on the editorial side. Because I mean, honestly, you know how I am. I got burnt out with writing a long time ago, right? Yep. So I was writing, editing, and then I started launching the agency component of it, and that grew. And it was just kind of like for a while, Search Engine Journal was like an afterthought, right? So it's like, okay, hey, how do I get content on it? Oh man, there hasn't been a new article posted for a week. So hey, these people are offering to publish, to write some content for it. Let me let them do it. And, a couple of years later, we go through and we see this link and that link and stuff like that. So it was definitely like, from a contributor standpoint, to be more vigilant. I would say anything that you launch that you open up to UGC, even if it's user-generated content that are from people within a specific industry or whatever, always try to find out what their agenda is at the end of the day. On the clients, I mean, we have some great blogs that we've worked with for years on the client side, and pitches all the time. I'm reading these pitches and I'm like, I know who this is, right? They're writing from a Gmail account or something, and I'll just respond back. Okay, who are you? What are you really trying to do? Which of these links is the one that you're trying to, get juice for? Yada yada yada. And then they'll write back, oh no, this plastic surgery link, I just think they have great content, so I want to naturally link to them. So I'm just trying to. I like calling people out on that side from the client side. And I think you should too. Be really careful about what you publish, because you don't want to end up, if you do open up to guest contribution, you don't want that to hurt you down the road, especially now with like Google coming out and saying, I think it was John Mueller came out and said that all links from guest posts should have a no follow. Right?
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, is it bios or all links?
That's a good question. I believe it's all links, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I got to read deeper into that.
Yeah.
So
they seem to do this every couple of years, though. It's just like blanket warning: guest posts are bad. Stop doing them. But people keep doing them.
Yeah, I mean, most of the guest posts that I do are like the goal at the end of the day is not an SEO link. That's right. That's the secondary goal if it happens. It's more so positioning, CMO, CEO, someone I work with, to be a thought leader in their space. Right. And there's some good paid guest posting programs out there. Like the Business Journals has one. Everything's no follow. You're paying to be part of a group that you network within, and you also get X amount of articles per year. Yep. So it's little things like that. But if you're paying, these are marked as sponsored, or they're marked as, hey, this is a paid guest contribution. Everything's no followed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's totally fine.
Yep. Cool. All right. Okay. User question. Lyndon wanted to know about time on site. Have you seen anything in terms of time on site that helps ranking? I guess is sort of the question there. Like, does having a higher time on site help you rank better? And I guess this sounds like an it depends question, but I'll let you answer.
It is kind of an it depends question, because I believe it does. And there was a theory going on for years that Google doesn't use bounce rate, or they don't use the minutes and time spent that's reported in analytics, because analytics is front facing, not back end, right? Like Search Console is. But at the same time, the ability to track time spent on the page, micro conversions, clicks, mouse overs, et cetera, through Chrome was always kind of a, hey, it's not official, but we do believe that this actually helps at the end of the day. And I think it still does from a Chrome UX experience too. And it's also like, if people, it's a quality metric that may not be a direct SEO metric, but it's going to help you long term.
Right.
People are staying on your site. Well, there's two reasons why they stay on your site for a long time. One, they're really interested in your stuff. Two, they can't find anything, right? So if they're staying on your site for a long time,
that could be bad.
Conversion rate's still bad. That's bad, right? Maybe they really, really, really want to get a product, but maybe you're not telling them about your supply chain things, or maybe you're not answering all their questions. So they're actually bouncing around looking for it because maybe they're brand loyal at the end of the day, but they just can't find the product, and or they can't find their answers. So maybe they are spending time on site, and then they're like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to Amazon and buy this. But yeah, I mean, I believe it's a quality indicator. I believe that deep in my heart that Google uses those quality indicators from their Chrome UX tracking to identify time, maybe not from a metric perspective, but just like a dwell time perspective too, right? And then I also believe there's intangibles involved with that, right? So if someone's on your site and they're watching a video, they're sticking around, they're going to another page, they're going to another page, that's a plus at the end of the day from you, because you're giving people an experience. And you're not just giving them a flash piece of content to buy right now. Maybe they're spending more time on your site because you're educating them, right?
Yep.
If you're educating them, then they're always going to associate you with those facts or that positive experience that they have on your site. So, I mean, Patagonia's done that for years. Done a very good job at it. And that's really content marketing at the end of the day too, right? But if people are getting to your site and they're bouncing off immediately, that's a quality indicator that goes beyond SEO. Hey, I spent a lot of time putting together this 2,000 word article, and people are only getting to the second paragraph. What's wrong? Well, maybe your intro was terrible, so you have to just redo it. So that's, I think it's a quality indicator that goes even beyond SEO at the end of the day. But I do think that all in all, especially within your competitive set, it can be a ranking factor.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks for that question. We'll do another one. Mariano wanted you to talk a little bit about SEO for news. So what's working right now in news? We're in a good position to know this. We could talk about AMP. Do you want to talk about AMP, Loren?
Talk about what we're doing with AMP.
Yeah.
So you might notice on the site that some of the older content that we have is not using AMP, and then some of the newer content is using AMP. And there's been changes that we've been making on that side. What we've been doing at SEJ, and we found that actually we can give a better user experience by not using AMP, or the same user experience by not using AMP. And that does not necessarily hinder us from a news traffic perspective either from Google. Especially now there's also like Google Discover and stuff like that, where it was a little bit harder to figure that out. So I would say Discover is probably the biggest thing from a news perspective in years, right? For Google to understand the topic matter that someone's interested in and then give them a story that they're likely to click on and read without even doing the query is amazing. But from news SEO, fast. Try to have the site as fast as possible. Contrary to popular belief, we don't have many ads on SEJ. If you compare us to a lot of the other publishers out there, most of our ads are for our own free content, right? So I would say, like, if you're doing news SEO, really keep an eye on to the monetization struggles and needs that the publisher that you're working with has, and really make sure and be on top of things in terms of, is this overlay affecting our rankability, crawlability, et cetera, on that side.
Cool.
What do you think?
Say that again? Sorry.
What do you think? You're very involved from a news perspective.
Yeah, it's it's same old stuff that's been true in journalism forever. Get it out fast, make it good, and just make it discoverable. Optimize it, It's really just hitting the basics, I've found. And it's not even that you have to do them perfectly either. It's just a lot of it too is building up your brand too. Like I've seen just the traffic to news stories on Search Engine Journal in the past 3 years. Just we just start to explode. We've hit a lot more viral news stories. So yeah, just keep building up your brand too. That's like one of the hidden things. Like the stronger your brand is and your domain, you're going to do much better in news. So yeah. Cool. All right. So let's talk tools, Loren. Everybody always wants to know what your favorite tools are. So I'm going to ask you, like, what are some of your must-have tools for SEO these days?
Well, I've always been a fan of SEMrush.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think SEMrush is kind of like everyone's common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
From a consultant level to an agency level to an enterprise level, people just use it as fallback or their main tool or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been a fan of SEMrush. One of my favorite Chrome extensions is, gosh, I'm looking at it right now. It's sorry, I can't remember the name of it. It's Glenn Alsop's out of the UK extension that he has for. Let me look it up.
Go for it.
It has a big blue D on there, and it doesn't say the brand.
Oops.
One of Viper Chill's. Oh, Detailed. The Detailed.com SEO analysis Chrome extension. I believe it's called. I'm looking right now. Okay, so it's just called SEO extension. Just detailed.com/extension. So basically it's a Chrome extension that shows you things like headers, links, images, whether those images have alts, all on the page level. It's a really fast tool to utilize when you're checking a site, when you're double checking against reporting. And then also it gives you a quick, for years I was like, when I went to go check schema, I'd like copy the URL, go over to the Google schema tester tool or structured markup tester tool, put that in, et cetera, look at it. This way you can just have it directly in your browser extension and look at the schema markup page by page by page, which I find to be very valuable. In addition to SEMrush, I really like the auditing that Ahrefs does with their tool as well. And I would say probably the most important tool to work with right now is Google Search Console. It sounds silly, but Search Console and the different tools associated with Google web developers, right? So, but really digging into your Search Console data, really digging into your speed data on the Lighthouse side, and making sure that, hey, Google says this is an error, right? Therefore, it's an error. It's like there's no argument around this. It's not an it depends. You have 1,000 errors on your site as reported by Search Console. That's 1,000 errors you need to take care of. Doesn't matter if you don't think it's that important at the end of the day. Doesn't matter if you're like, oh, I'm not sure if we really need this review schema integrated or whatever. Doesn't matter. Still reported as an error. So really dig into that and try to clean those up, right? Especially on the sitemap side as well. But I would say, like, my favorite tools are and have always really been SEMrush, Ahrefs, and this Detailed extension.
Awesome. All right. How about let's talk about SEO mistakes, or just sort of what are some big outdated tactics that you still hear people talking about you wish they would just stop with at this point?
I still see people doing blog comment links. I still see large agencies that resell link building packages doing blog comment links for brands. Like, it shocks me. First of all, they're no followed. Secondly, it's usually crappy comments with keywords set up as the username, and it links back. And it's like, this is a Fortune 500 brand that's, I don't know who they're working with to do this. Maybe a big agency that's reselling, or maybe they signed on with some link building company that's including this in what they're doing, but it's just such an outdated tactic that doesn't make any sense. First of all, the stuff's ignored anyway. Secondly, you don't want to start building thousands of anchor texts for no reason, especially in comments. It just doesn't work. And it's misleading, right? So I think the thing that bothers me the most with SEO mistakes is when I see someone doing something that's misleading. Someone promises that something works, or they promise X and they deliver Y. And that's a huge mistake that I see out there. And it's the whole comment spamming thing is outdated at the end of the day. And also, being a publisher, I'm no fan of comment spamming either, right? I feel like comment spamming kind of killed one component of publishing. So yeah, that's the one thing that drives me crazy from a mistake standpoint.
How about, so let's flip that around a little bit. What's sort of one great piece of advice that someone has given you about SEO, or even something that's helped you in your professional career? Who gave it to you?
Well, I think some of the best advice I have gotten on SEO has been from Bill Hunt, who we had on our SEJU summit. It's like looking at the value of your work as opposed to what the deliverable is, right? So yeah, cleaning up a site is important, but what's the long-term value, and how do you communicate that internally on the client side? What's this worth? Should I sign on for this project, or should I sign on for this project plus X amount of sales that come from it, right? So really looking into that. I think, I've been a freelancer all my life. I've worked, except for like teaching English and one of my first jobs out of college, I've always worked for myself, good and bad. I would say some of the best experience I've had on that side is people have told me, and I never did this, is to find a mentor, to find people that have been through this previously. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to go pay for some business coach or life coach, but find someone you can talk to. They don't necessarily have to be an SEO, but just a person that has experience running a business, running a consultancy, doing freelancing, working with being a vendor, right? As SEOs, we like to say we're not vendors, but we are. Like we're a vendor at the end of the day. Once you get past that, you can achieve anything. So, but just how to be how to take that relationship that you may have as a vendor and turn that into a partner relationship. And that's been extremely important. Like, I have clients that have been with us for 10 years plus, right? We, knock on wood, we don't have very much turnover. And I think a lot of that is because we become invested in that campaign in terms of doing things above and beyond to make sure that things work, whether that's helping out on the conversion side, whether that's hosting sites at the end of the day, working with the host to make sure things work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Things that aren't necessarily defined as SEO, but as we've learned over the years, are core components of helping SEO work.
Awesome. What about, so we didn't do this at the start, I probably should have, just tell us a little bit about Foundation Digital. What do you do there? What's your role? And sort of what sort of stuff do you typically work on? Yeah,
so Foundation Digital is a boutique SEO-driven digital marketing and PR consultancy. That's myself and my business partners and friends, Greg Bozer and Dax Herrera, own. It's a 7.5-year-old company. So we started it in 2013? Yeah, 2013.
Oh.
And early 2013. And so we handle SEO, but we also handle everything that happens after that SEO plan is put together, and that's mostly on the content marketing side of things. And then the outreach, PR, link acquisition component of all of that, as well as blog development and hosting. So for some of our clients, we run everything. We design their sites, we code their sites, we host their sites, we do their SEO. We manage that lead flow that comes in from PPC and other forms of marketing as well. And for some clients, we work from an SEO consultancy perspective. It just really matters on what they need. I would say, for those of you that are starting agencies or just getting experience in that world, the more you can become a utility for your client at the end of the day, the less chances are that they're going to want to turn the lights off at one time or another. So even the companies that, had to end their contracts due to COVID, we still have relationships with. There might be a time where that gets stricken up again, right? And as an agency owner, it's nice that I started SEJ and I'm still very involved in SEJ, but the fact is that SEJ has grown above me, and I accepted that a long time ago. It's just like, wow, look at this machine. How can I now help support this machine growing? And it's nice. It's nice having that SEJ history and also having your own agency, right? Because I've seen the pitch decks that we go against, and I've seen people in their pitch decks say, "Oh yeah, so and so's an SEJ contributor." So I'll go in. I'm like, I own that site. I started that site. Like, what, really? Like, yeah. So that's beneficial at the end of the day too. So again, that's what we do at Foundation Digital. We've worked with clients from smaller regional schools to large, media companies like ESPN, Disney, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just across the board. But we're not working with 100 clients at a time. We pretty much cap it off around 12, 15 clients, and we make sure that we have the staff and know-how to be able to do so.
Awesome. Let's see. So this will be a fun one for you. Do you have sort of a favorite SEO campaign that you've worked on, and sort of what made it special? And if you can't say what it is due to NDA, like obviously who the client was, but is there anything that sort of sticks out to you as sort of like one of your favorite SEO campaigns that you've ever done, and what made it special for you?
There's a couple. They're both a little bit older. One was in 2017, I believe. We did a big zombie campaign for forrent.com, which is now acquired by apartments.com. It was like how to defend your apartment from zombies. Nice. This is during like the Walking Dead. Peak, when Walking Dead peaked more or less. And it was a great piece. We've done a number of pieces like that where we've brought in physicists to do studies around what kind of door you should have, or the speed of the zombies, or what kind of force that they. Like, we'll watch the videos from all of these different zombie movies. We'll see how many zombies it takes to break in the door, right? So it's like little things like that, and what type of door. So bring in the ability to add that kind of proprietary data and proprietary research to pieces like that really helps. So for a while there, we were doing a lot of that with a couple of our clients that were really into sci-fi. Another one was called Fat Wallet, which is now Rakuten. So we were doing things like the fastest ship in the galaxy, like looking at all the sci-fi ships from each different movie and comparing them from a speed perspective, along with real like vehicles. And that popped. Like that really, that was a story of the day on Facebook. It was picked up by every single like science site there is, sci-fi site, like Sci-Fi Channel, IFL Science, all of Gizmodo, all of the science sites. So that was a really big hit. We won a bunch of awards for that, which was cool. Like, it's nice to do at the end of the day, like walk up and win an award. And then I would say that in addition to that zombie and sci-fi campaigns, gosh, there was another one I was about to talk about. I kind of forgot about it, or maybe I mentioned it a little bit. But yeah, really anything that is proprietary data that has the ability to take off on its own and grow its own legs has been exceptional. And then one of the smartest things that we've done is we've hired internally on the PR side to get people that have a background in traditional PR to get those wins that are a little bit above the outreach that's typically associated with SEO, right? So getting clients on NBC or the Today Show and stuff like that has been pretty phenomenal on that side, and it helps from a search perspective because it ends up getting links.
Awesome. All right. How about let's talk clients really briefly. How do you sort of have any tricks that you found work for weeding out clients that may not be the best fit for you, or just sort of any general tips when taking on new clients?
Yeah. The biggest thing I would say is just make sure that you find out as much information about them as possible while they're finding out information about you, right? So the last position you want to be in when taking on a new client is their inability to implement the changes that you need to have changed on their site from an SEO perspective, right? So really understanding, and it also gives you the ability to prioritize too. So really understanding how their development team works, what their timelines look like. Are you going to start a new SEO project for an e-com company in September and they freeze in October? How does that work? Would it be better to start in January, right? So really trying to figure that out, because the ability to get that initial win is very important for the long-term relationship, and the ability to communicate which obstacles could stay in the way of that win also helps a lot too.
Awesome. All right. Let's see, what else do we want to talk about? Any other questions? I forgot to check. My apologies. Actually, I had a question for you. So,
Sure.
in terms of content right now, are there any things that are working or not working as well? Like, some people are saying, sort of the time of the death of the blog post for a lot of companies. Are you seeing that? And if so, like, what's sort of working really well on the content side right now?
Instead of trying to write as many blog posts as possible, taking the time to put together one long form guide that addresses all of that, right? Like, why splice up your equity amongst multiple hard to discover components of the site when you can put together basically the equivalent of an ebook or a mini book guide that has the same format as a blog post, but is a lot longer. It brings people in, it gets their dwell time up, right? So it gets some reading, gets some links to one piece versus 100. And really concentrating on, again, that the best piece of content out there around your topic really helps, right? So for a while, once people realized that blog posts help to get more Google traffic, it was like, okay, we have to write 100 blog posts about this topic. And what have we been doing lately, Danny? We've been cleaning up all those blog posts, pruning them, consolidating, right, into larger pieces, right, which have an evergreen lifespan and are easier. There's less resources being put into updating one piece versus 100 pieces, right, year after year after year. And it gives you one central location to link to, right? Oh, so one of the most fun SEO campaigns I've ever worked on was, and I can talk about this one. So it was for American Eagle. And at the time, this was 5 years ago now. At the time, they had never, ever shared a blog post on their Facebook page because their blog was run by one division of the company and their Facebook was run by a completely different division of the company that never really talked. So what we did was we put together a guide on how to distress your jeans, right? Because like getting holes in jeans and making them unique is a big deal. And we saw that a lot of their customers were actually doing this after buying the jeans as well. So we really wanted to get into that segment. So we put together a really nice infographic with lots of little takeaway cards and stuff like that, and illustrations on how to put holes in your jeans, how to bleach them, how to do this, how to do that. It was a really long piece. And what we did was we finally got permission for them to be able to share this piece on their Facebook page to their 15 million likes, right? Which is probably a lot more now. But what they wanted to do when they shared it was they wanted to have the image and write about it and then have a bit.ly link. You never want to do that on Facebook, because what happens then is that there's less of a chance they're going to click on that and go directly to the site. Plus you're sending them through a shortener. Plus, the image is weird and everything else. So what we did was, for over the course of 6 weeks, we used a different Facebook Open Graph image in the code, right? So the first Open Graph image was like the introduction to the guide. Second Open Graph image was how to bleach your jeans properly. Third Open Graph image for the third week was how to do this. And we turned it into a social campaign where instead of having the image and the text and the bit.ly link, we would just share that post. But since we shared that post at different times and it had different Open Graph images at those times, we had different messaging appear within those posts. And it took off. It took off so rapidly. Like, we were getting hundreds and thousands of likes for like this is the first time again they'd ever shared a blog post on their social channel, right?
Mhm.
So we were getting hundreds of thousands of likes every time they shared that. And then on top of it, it would go viral because fashion bloggers would reshare it or share it on their own formats or write about it. And so we were able to utilize their existing social media channel as a way to amplify that content. And since that, I do believe with that campaign, we were also able to utilize their email list as well, which is huge, right? So that's the campaign that really got me into looking at SEO and content marketing beyond, because I was kind of spoiled when I got into content marketing because we had Dig and we had Reddit and stuff like that. So you can have stuff go viral, shut down the site in a matter of hours. And that was a success. Get a lot of links. But we don't really have that anymore, right? But what you do have on the client level is their own distribution channels, which are set up for things like specials and deals and getting reviews. But if you can get into that system and pipeline, that's your publish button equivalent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that's a way that you can get links, you can get traffic, which is very important at the end of the day, right? Because of Chrome UX and everything else. You can get people sticking on the site, you can get people sharing, commenting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that worked really well. That was kind of like a game changer in terms of making sure that it took us a lot of time to talk them into doing that, like months. And then once they did, it was like, oh wow, now we have a case study. Now we can work with all these other clients to do something similar, right?
Yep.
So that was a fun campaign.
Awesome. Sounds great. All right. We're getting near the end of our time. So I'll just ask two more questions. Sure. First one, what are you most excited about in SEO right now?
Oh man, I'm really excited about bouncing back after lock-in, like traffic bouncing back.
Yep.
I'd say one of the most things that excites me right now in SEO is looking at things from a mobile first perspective. And I believe people are starting to get it. Even if their site already was a mobile first index, even if their site is the majority of mobile, like most of the designers that I'm working with now are doing the mobile design first and desktop second. So that really excites me because it means that we're not going to have conflicting metrics on both sides of the user experience anymore, right? That excites me a lot.
Awesome. All right. And where can people find you online if they want to follow you, connect with you, or just, anything else? And is there anything like in particular you'd like people to check out of yours, maybe a favorite blog post or just anything else?
Nothing on the blog post side, but you can definitely connect with me at Twitter at Loren Baker. Like there's not very many of me with my name. Yep. So it's Loren, not Lauren. You can see it right here.
As it's spelled on the screen, yes. There you go.
So definitely follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn or even Facebook. And I share a lot of SEO stuff on Twitter. On LinkedIn, I try to share more business related things. Like I don't read very many business books, but I really got addicted to business reality TV recently.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Profit and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice.
So while sharing things I learned on there.
Nice.
But please connect with me in social media. And other than Search Engine Journal, I'd say, that's the only site you should be really digging into right now.
Yep, absolutely. Do you still speak any Japanese? Do you remember any of it? Can you share us a line like as we close a farewell in Japanese?
Minasama arigatou gozaimashita. Mo nihaku no Search Engine Journal no podcast mo shimashita. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Mata ne. I think that means everyone, thank you. We just did our 200th episode of the SEG podcast. It was really a treat. See you soon. I'm actually doing a webinar with one of our Japanese partners on Thursday night.
Oh,
so
wow.
I have to get my intro together. I'm really rusty when it comes to Japanese because I haven't had a chance to practice it much in the past 12 years. But my Portuguese is pretty good. I get a chance to do that as well. So
nice. Yeah. Well, it sounded good to me.
My English is okay.
But yeah. Cool. All right. Well, that does it for us. Thanks everybody for your questions. Thanks for hanging out with us for a while. And we'll be doing more of these. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning in. We got more great stuff on the way in future weeks. So thanks so much and have a great rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Danny.
Thanks, Loren.